Welcome to We the People, a new birth of freedom. Thanks once again for stopping by. Been talking about the Declaration of Independence and what life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness actually means. This is going to be a very lengthy series, so hang with me. I was just thinking earlier, before I get back into what I was reading to you on the prior video, I was just thinking, you know, I've worked out on and on most of my life. I love to work out with weights. I love to exercise. It's a great, exhilarating feeling. But I never got into the steroids and all the poison stuff that they inject into their bodies and muscles. Never interested me because I couldn't equate that to anything healthy. It's just a temporary mirage, illusion. But many have done it. And many are fascinated by that. They see these huge, bulging muscles and they idolize it. When in actuality, if the layers are peeled back, all of that poison that's injected into the body has no nutritional value whatsoever. It just creates, as I said, a facade, a mirage, an illusion. It's all deceptive. Because as soon as they come off the juice, they shrink back down. Causes all kind of internal problems. Many times it causes death, premature death. So I got to thinking about that, and the expression that came to my mind was, it's death wrapped in an illusion. That's what it is. It's death wrapped in an illusion. And then from there, I begin to associate that with much of our politics. Politics that strays from the laws of nature and nature's God is death wrapped in an illusion. It's death of life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. It's all death to all of that, but it's wrapped in a deceptive illusion. Many politicians are masters at giving a flowery speech, but it's laced with lies, manipulation, subjective agendas. You know, they call it Marxism, postmodernism. There's really nothing modern about it. We're either a free people in the context of understanding our sovereignty, our accountability, and our responsibility, or we're under tyranny, totalitarianism, dictatorship, being abused by politics and usurpations, by tyrants, hell-bent on limiting your freedom. So meditate on that for a while. It's death wrapped in an illusion. Don't fall prey to some flowery speech, because history has documented that it's all just an illusion. Yes, they promise you freedom when they themselves are slaves to totalitarian ideologies. They promise you freedom. They promise you liberty when they themselves are slaves to socialistic, communistic, Nazi agendas. It's all tyranny. It's all treason. It's all anti-liberty, anti-American. Let's continue on. The preamble sets forth the basic principle of the document, We the People, talking about the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. And this basic principle of the document, We the People, the reason it's worded that way is because we the people do ordain and establish the Constitution. All power, in short, comes from the people. But as a reflection of the principles of the Declaration, the power of the people give to government to exercise on their behalf is strictly limited. The government is strictly limited. Indeed, the very first sentence of Article 1, following the preamble, implies as much. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. That the people herein granted, not politics granted it, but the people granted that Congress, that the power shall be vested in Congress. The people granted that, not their political agendas or ideologies. That the people herein granted only limited legislative powers is made clear by the enumeration of those powers in Article 1, Section 8. And the point is reiterated as if for emphasis in the 10th Amendment, the final member of the Bill of Rights that was drafted in 1789, then added after ratification in 1791. Notice the wording carefully. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Plainly, only certain powers were delegated or granted by the people. Those powers were then enumerated in the Constitution. The rest were reserved to the states or to the people, never having been granted to either level of government. That's why I say it's always talked about the three branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Those are the three powers that are existing in our government. Actually, there's four, because those other three would not exist without us granting those powers. So we, the people, hold the supreme power. Politics does not want you to realize that, but we hold the supreme power. To illustrate how enumeration limits power, consider the General Welfare Clause of Article 1, Section 8. Were the passage containing that clause to be read simply as authorizing Congress to tax and spend for the general welfare, as some read it today, Congress would have been granted all but unlimited power, and the enumeration of other powers would have been to no purpose. Thus, the passage must be read as permitting spending only for enumerated ends, and the clause restricts such spending to the general welfare only, not to the welfare of particular parties. Similarly, the power given Congress to regulate commerce among the states could not have been a power to regulate anything that affects commerce, which in principle is everything, for that too would have made pointless any limits imposed by enumeration. Rather, the Commerce Clause was meant primarily to restrain state power, to ensure the free flow of goods and services among the states. Congress was given the power to regulate such commerce, to make it regular. Those limitations are reinforced by the necessary and proper clause, which limits the means available to Congress to those that are necessary for executing enumerated powers. Without such means, the enumerated powers could not be executed and proper for a government dedicated to liberty. As their many writings make clear, the founders intended the doctrine of enumerated powers to be our principal defense against overwhelming government. If there were no power to do something, the government could hardly abuse that power. But they provided other defenses as well. Thus, in addition to dividing power between the national and state governments, leaving most power with the states or with the people, they separated powers among the three branches of the national government. And this is what I was referring to: legislative, executive, and judicial. Then devised a series of checks and balances to further restrain those powers. Within the bounds of its enumerated powers, for example, Congress may enact legislation, but the President has a power to veto such legislation, which Congress may then override only by a supermajority vote. Likewise, in deciding cases or controversies before them, the courts may exercise the judicial power by reviewing the actions of the other two branches to ensure that they do not exceed the limits imposed by the Constitution, a power that was extended to state actions as well after ratification of the Civil War amendments, but the President and Congress determine who shall sit on the federal courts. Again, The Bill of Rights was added in 1791 for greater caution. But because no such bill could list all of our rights, the Ninth Amendment states, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And of course, the people retained the power to elect their political officials, which was a final check on an overwhelming power by the government. So it all comes back to we the people. We hold the supreme power by the supreme law of the land and accept the accountability and responsibility that goes with that. And the rights of others. We do not infringe upon that. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time, be a true American. Take care.